We finally have a release date and title for Tom Holland's next Spider-Man movie, a release date for Beyond the Spider-Verse, and it seems like Sony's other attempt at a cinematic universe is dead and buried, so you know what I'm in the mood for? You guessed it, Spider-Man. I'm a pretty big fan of the character, if you couldn't tell already. Spider-Man was a huge success on every level, and where there's success, studios want more, and more in this case means sequels. The road to Spider-Man 2 was a tumultuous one, to say the least, including several different script rewrites and almost dropping Tobey Maguire entirely in favor of Jake Gyllenhaal.
There's a lot of documentation for Spider-Man 2, the movie, out there, and while I'd love to talk about that at length, today we're focusing on Spider-Man 2, the game. Your titles really aren't making talking about these games any easier.
When you think about Spider-Man 2, you're likely to think about many things. The pizza deliveries, balloons, the swinging. Spider-Man 2, more than many, is a monumental game not only in the legacy of Spider-Man, but superheroes at large. The gravity of just how much it added may be lost today, so let's take it from the top. There were plenty of superhero-themed games out in 2003. Most of them were side-scrollers or beat-em-ups. That's not to say there's no variation to this or none of them ever went 3D, it's just that the results usually weren't what anyone was hoping for. Spider-Man seemed to be the exception to this, putting out games that were a hit with fans, critics, and general audiences. The game based on the 2002 film was no exception to this, but it was clear that things were moving in a new direction. GTA 3 had come out the year before, and Vice City had come out by then. Two games that completely changed everything. Though it's hard to believe now, open world games were still a new idea back then, something that no one had ever really seen before. What was Spider-Man known for? Swinging around New York, so stepping into that realm only made sense. So, seeing this for the first time?
A responsibility that never ends.
It was absolutely mind-blowing. The hype gears were turning. We were promised a lot with this game. A huge world to explore, more fleshed out combat, and classic villains like Doc Ock and the Lizard, the latter of whom still looks horrifying to this day. Spider-Man 2 would be truly everywhere, releasing on every major platform at the time. Even things like the Nokia N-Gage for all two people who actually had one of those things. The version most fondly remembered was released on the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and the GameCube. That's not to say the other versions are without their qualities, just that the console version is most likely what's being discussed when the game is being fondly remembered. There's a lot that could be said about the infamous PC version or handheld versions, but for the purposes of this video, we're keeping our focus on these. Before I first played Marvel's Spider-Man earlier this year, it was a toss-up between this and Ultimate for which one was my favorite Spider-Man game. And now, it still alternates between the two, which I like more. One of my fondest childhood memories is coming home from trick-or-treating, dressed in my Spider-Man costume and playing it while I devoured my candy. Simpler, easier times they were. Spider-Man 2 was once again developed by Treyarch, released in 2004, and released 2 days before the movie of which it's based on, featuring the talents of Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, and Alfred Molina, reprising their respective movie roles of Peter, MJ, and Otto Octavius. Much like its predecessor, it adapts all the major beats of the film for the main story, but introduces its own flair. We spend more time with Peter out of costume here. It's not a substantial amount of time like it is in the movie, but we do get a feel for how his life goes when he's not swinging around. It also has another Spider-Man staple, monologues.
That cake was good. I'm stuffed. I'd better burn off some calories or I won't fit in my costume anymore.
You'll frequently get Spider-Man talking to himself, just giving you an idea of what his thoughts on recent events in the story are, where his head's at. It's a nice change of pace and really makes it feel more like the comics on which it's based. There's a good number of side plots that have a substantial amount of time devoted to them, far more than what was in the first game. We see these characters make repeat appearances throughout, which gives them a much wider and better sense of presence and makes the world feel more alive. In addition to Doc Ock, we also have the return of Shocker, and newcomers in the Rhino and Mysterio. Being open world and not level to level, the story moves much differently, much more naturally. Abandoning the previous level to level progression and going open world allows the plot to be a lot more seamless. We still have chapters, but it never feels segmented like it did before. All of this to say that the subplots running concurrently with the main plot was a thing before, but now it's just more cohesive. The most notable of these subplots is Black Cat, who appears periodically throughout the events of the game. She mainly shows up when Peter is having doubts about his double life, showing him a world where he can just be Spider-Man, where he doesn't have to worry about the responsibilities and burdens of Peter Parker, stopping robberies, weapons dealings, and Shocker. This culminates in Peter realizing that his responsibility is what makes him who he is, and that no matter how tough life gets, New York needs Spider-Man to be at his best, as much as those in his personal life need Peter Parker to be around. It was a really well done plot thread in the movie, and being able to spend more one-on-one time with Spider-Man himself, it feels equally well done in the game. The main overarching plot in the background is still Octavius seeking revenge and to rebuild his machine, but you also have that story with Black Cat chasing down the Shocker. You have Quentin Beck failing to prove himself better than Spider-Man and taking up the Mysterio persona, leading to some real highlights like his attack on a theater and the Statue of Liberty. It's a lot more cinematic feeling of a game and feels to me like a real leap forward. It also helps to have more time with the supporting cast, in the form of Aunt May, Mary Jane, Harry, and Dr. Connors. It's not a super ton of time like it is in the movies, but just enough to see what they mean to Peter and their role in his life. It's a very full-feeling narrative that rarely leaves a dull moment, and for a movie tie-in game, I think it's incredibly commendable. This is boosted, I think, by the improved performances. It's still nothing Oscar-worthy, but it sounds much better than it did before. Spider-Man is about as quippy as I'd want him to be.
Okay, I'll bite. How did the fishbowl get stuck on your head? Mysterio? I think I had a bowl of Mysterios for breakfast.
And it makes some more quiet, introspective monologues a lot more powerful. Not every delivery is a winner, but I would say it's a step up and about on par with performances of the era. Alfred Molina especially is as imposing as he ever was as the sinister Dr. Octopus.
At last. My masterpiece recreated. Oh, Rosie, if only you could see it.
The Jonah impression admittedly still fails to impress.
I don't pay you for your opinion, Parker. I pay you for photos.
But Bruce Campbell returns as the narrator in full force, and it is glorious.
Well, sequel time already, huh? Welcome back, I guess. I'm sure you miss me more than I missed you. Okay? Now go jump in a lake.
His narration has been a constant source of belly laughs for me in the 21 years I've been playing. I sure hope whoever's idea was to have Bruce Campbell bully me gets a raise. The other talent is worth mentioning too. Michael Beatty returns as the Shocker, Holly Fields takes the reins of Black Cat, and James Arnold Taylor steps into the robes of Mysterio. The casting is just about perfect in that case. He perfectly matches that sniveling, complete loser performance I've always associated with Mysterio.
Oh, I give up. Don't hit me again.
There are a lot of similar or outright shared voices among thugs and citizen NPCs, but it's easy to forgive because there's still such an early entry in open world games, and the most important principal cast all sounds distinct enough. The music compared to last time is something I have a much easier time discussing. Much like last time, I like it. It feels a lot more varied too. You have your more frantic pieces for swinging around the city. More calm pieces that are perfect for the night patrol. your energetic techno pieces. There's a bit of everything. Much like the last game, there are a ton of super notable standouts. For me, some of the best examples come with Black Cat and Doc Ock. When you first encounter the former, her music is quiet, soft. There's an air of mystery and uncertainty to it. But the more time you spend with her and getting to know her, more starts to be added to the motif. There comes an air of confidence, playfulness even. Doc Ock's theme is suitably crashing and imposing, like there's a boiling anger underneath. Mysterio's theme sounds right out of a 50s Alien B movie, and that's fantastic. That's not to say the previous game's music was bad by any means, just thought this game's is a lot more distinct. Stuff I could easily see myself listening to when on a walk, or cleaning around the house, or really anything. Perhaps the biggest leap forward was in how the game itself played. Spider-Man games before had very static swinging, webs connecting to nothing in particular. It's not that you weren't allowed varying degrees of freedom, just that it never felt as free as those games eventually would be. Being able to touch the ground without dying, within reason at least, was a huge deal at the time. Remember that outside a very select few missions to this point, trying to go below a certain level would lead to certain death. But now, you can swing between cars, mingle among the people, stop some petty crimes. In a day and age where open world games are the standard, it may not sound like a big deal now, but this was a huge deal at the time, especially for superhero games. It's like Skyrim with webs, or to be more era appropriate, I suppose it would be Morrowind with webs. Swinging is the most dynamic it's ever felt. In earlier games, it felt incredibly rigid. Once at speed, easy, but a new degree of freedom requires a new approach. Treyarch went to incredible lengths to develop their new web swinging system. You can't just swing off clouds anymore. You need something to swing off of, be it a lamppost, a ceiling, or most commonly a building. There's a real physics system to it. You don't just get the set speed of before, you eventually slow down on a swing if you don't act on things. You can swing like a pendulum and hang off the web. You can web up an enemy and swing them around. It's the most technical web swinging these games have ever seen, and yet it feels incredibly rewarding to master and zip around the city. Even climbing on walls here is a bit expanded upon, with wall running being introduced and being able to more seamlessly incorporate it into your movement. Spider-Man just feels and moves more fluidly, more acrobatically. There were definite good games with Spider-Man to come before this, but this is the first to truly feel like it nailed how Spider-Man should move. This also extends to the game's combat. Webbing is no longer a limited resource in any sense, for traversal or for combat. Up to this point, this was the most free-feeling combat has ever felt in these games, feeling a lot like an early draft of the free-flow combat in the Batman Arkham series. Just before an enemy's attack lands, your spider sense will activate. If you press the dodge button just in time, Spider-Man will lean out of the way and give you an opportunity to strike right back. You have your regular punches and kicks, and you can enter a sprint to have stronger attacks. The possibilities don't end there. You can get really creative with it and incorporate webbing into your fighting in a lot of unique and often hilarious ways. But wait, there's more. At various spots in the city, you can find something called the Spidey Store, which allows you to unlock new moves for combat, swinging, upgrades for health, and so on. Opposite of your health meter is the Spider Reflex meter, and when activated, the world around Spider-Man slows down, giving you more time to react and highlighting dangers like attacks and bullets. It also allows you to more easily attack enemies that would otherwise require some method of breaking down their guard, and you're going to need to bring your A game for some of these crimes. Some of them aren't so bad, just your standard thugs or military dropouts. But others, like these mech thugs, won't be so easy. Running in headfirst to encounters like these will get you ragdolled incredibly fast, and you're gonna be facing up against criminals of New York quite a lot. Between the main story, you're given quite a lot of freedom to just swing around. Crimes such as muggings, road raging drivers, and helping children with their lost balloons back. There are larger scale versions of these games in which you stop to talk to civilians, and these are a bit more varied. Armored car holdups, saving workers from falling, getting injured people to a hospital, saving people off a sinking ship, and so on and so on. You feel like you see a lot of them pretty quickly, but I like them quite a lot. They're a fun way to break up the major story events or just keep you on your toes. Getting a lady's purse back or getting a kid's balloon back aren't the most exciting way to be spending their runtime, but it really helps with the feeling of Spider-Man looking out for the little guy. One of the more well-known side activities in the game is delivering pizzas, which comes with its own fun and unique limitations. The main aim is to keep the pizza in its best shape possible, and to get it to the customer as quickly as possible. This means you have to keep the acrobatics to a minimum, so you really have to get creative and think on your feet for how you're going to move quickly from point A to point B. Even if you haven't explicitly played these missions, you've probably at least heard the music pop up in internet memes here or there. If you're looking for something more traditional, you can also occasionally pick up jobs from Robbie at the Daily Bugle, which are timed challenges that test your acrobatics and movement more than anything. I didn't spend a ton of times with these, but I do really enjoy photography, so I appreciated being there. If you're looking for extra content beyond that, Spider-Man 2 has some more to offer. Around the city are collectible tokens. You can find them in thug hideouts, on buoys out in the water, on skyscrapers, or in secret areas. You don't unlock any collectible costumes this time around, but there's plenty of other things to see. You have arcade minigames again that let you play around with combat, but the real highlight comes in the fight arena. Entering the warehouse where you first fight Shocker, you're presented with a few options. To fight a gauntlet of the game's regular thugs, in addition to lizard enemies, and the game's many bosses. Rhino, Shocker, Doc Ock, and exclusive to this arena, Calypso. This is about as close the Raimiverse has seen to properly having a Sinister Six, so that novelty alone makes it rather interesting to see. There's no real reward for beating all this other than bragging rights, and seeing the otherwise scrapped Calypso and Lizard enemies. And let me tell you, Calypso is easily the hardest, most annoying boss in the entire game. It goes something like this. Calypso uses primarily magic attacks from a long range, usually flinging Spider-Man back, or burning him, or freezing him in place. Annoying on its own, but Calypso will also disappear and reappear elsewhere once you get close enough or land enough hits in, which is again annoying on its own, but the key to victory is in this staff. Punching it will momentarily stun her, letting you get more hits in. The problem is, the staff itself also frequently disappears and will reappear elsewhere, and the lock-on system doesn't lock onto it. And there's no real way of knowing where it went until you find it. Those flames and ice can drain your health insanely quickly, and when you start adding other bosses to it, even a pushover like Rhino can deal out some serious pain. There's actually quite a lot of cut content in the game, including an entire sewer section, and subplot with Kraven, Calypso, and the Lizard. With some finagling, you can access part of the sewer section, but the boss arena is the only place where you can see Calypso and the Lizard enemies. with Kraven and the sewer proper, and the lizard himself being scrapped and reworked later in Spider-Man 3. It is a shame that one of the hosts of the game's reveal ended up not making it into the game outside of the handheld versions, but the game itself is already packed to bursting for its time that I'm not too upset over it. Still, one can't help but wonder what could have been if they had been given enough time to finish the lizard and his subplot. This goes for all three major console versions, however. Unlike the previous game, there is no Xbox exclusive content. Aside from the differences in visual fidelity, you get more or less the same experience across all three consoles. The world in general is something I just like exploring and moving around in. I felt incredibly accomplished the first time I made it to Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty outside the fight with Mysterio, even if there isn't a whole lot to see there outside of the collectible tokens. Visually, it's about what you'd expect. It looks good for the time it came out, albeit slightly lower in fidelity to make the open world work, but it definitely shows its age in some areas, primarily in the textures and faces of the models. They don't look horrendous or anything, but we've come a long way in the 20 years since the game has come out, and it can honestly make it a little hard to look back on. The GameCube version especially has some really bad Z fighting in some places, and I can't entirely tell if the slowdown is the fault of the emulator or just the game, but I don't remember it getting this bad on the PlayStation 2. Spider-Man 2 is an all-time childhood classic, one of my absolute favorites of all time. We've definitely had better Spider-Man games to come out since then, but this is one I still hold in very high regard. I love swinging around the city even now, finding the little things, like Vulture's wings on the Chrysler building from his boss in the first game. Nostalgia definitely plays a big role in that, but I also firmly believe that it's just an incredibly well-made game in its own right. Being a movie licensed game puts it in a complicated spot where it's highly unlikely to ever see any sort of remaster or re-release, but a few of the games based on Star Wars Episode 1 have seen them in recent years, so I don't want to say that anything is impossible. That said, Activision likely still holds the rights to this game, and with Insomniac seeing wide success with their title, I sort of doubt that they see much value in digging up successes from 20 years ago. This is the game that showed me what superhero games could be, and it paved the way for Insomniac's Spider-Man games and the Arkham series. It's sort of hard to imagine where the genre would be without it, crappy PC version notwithstanding. It may not be the most polished in some areas, but it's still an incredibly fun game, and at the end of the day, what more could you ask for? Thank you so much for watching. This was a really long video to write since I had so much to say about the game, but I hope it came together well. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment telling me your thoughts. If you want to see more videos like this one, consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell. I like it when people pat my head and tell me I did good. If you want to support the show even further, consider leaving me a tip over on Ko-fi. I'm putting together some exclusive rewards as we speak, and it's stuff I'm hoping will be really cool. Aside from that, you get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to whatever it is I'm working on, and even early access to certain videos and games. If you can't or don't want to, that's cool. It's tough out there, and it's only getting tougher. Just watching the video means more to me than you know. Regardless of all that, thanks for watching.